Hey everybody, and welcome to the Everything Went Black podcast. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and checking the podcast out. Tonight's episode features Mary Spiro, who is also a fellow podcaster. You might have heard her podcast, Metallomusikum. It's kind of a tongue twister, but I actually was a guest on that podcast quite a while ago. And she's also a music writer. Her work has appeared with Heathen Harvest. And also, she's the organizer of Shadowwoods Festival. This is the second year that fest is in existence, and Tombs is playing. The festival starts in a couple weeks, and we're all looking forward to going down to Maryland and rocking the house. Before we get going, I want to thank everyone who has donated to the Savage Gold GoFundMe. We're closing in on our goal, but thanks a lot for supporting. I really appreciate it. If you guys are into healthy products, please check out the affiliate sponsor on it. You can get hemp protein, all kinds of supplements, exercise equipment, all that sort of stuff. If you need a really cool bag, check out Datsusara. I rep Datsusara hard. I got the battle pack, the fanny pack, and I also have, grappling shorts, that sort of stuff. Down with Datsusara, man. They're like one of my favorite, accessory brands. If you're into the podcast, please leave a review and a star rating. That stuff really helps out with the iTunes standings. And I really appreciate that. If you want to follow me on Twitter, at MikeHillHQ. And we also just launched the YouTube channel, which right now is just it's just the podcast episodes with like a fancy card. So you can listen to the podcasts on YouTube, whatever that means. But down the line, I'm hoping to do some video content. Something I've really wanted to do for a while. And someday, hopefully soon, that stuff will be realized. Hey, Mary, we're just going to get going. Going to get right into it.
All right.
So Shadowwoods Festival is coming up in a couple weeks. And how many of these have you done so far?
Will only be the second one.
Okay, so the second annual one, you're going to try to do this every year?
I'm going to try. We're going to see how it works. The first year, I lost a lot of money, and I'm still kind of reeling from that. So this one, we're doing better on ticket sales, and we're on track to at least break even, and it'll make the decision. Once we get on the ground, we'll see what happens. But I would like to be able to do it every year.
Are you doing this with other people? Like, do you have partners, or are you just undertaking this thing on your own?
Well, financially, I'm primarily responsible for it. I have a lot of help in terms of choosing the bands. I have a production manager a paid production manager who manages the lights and sound and, coordinates the stages and everything. We've got 3 stages. So that's something I wouldn't be able to do on my own. My skill set, if you're going to call it anything, is hopefully in coordinating and curating a lineup that people will want to see. But I have a lot of help.
So what motivated you to do this? I mean, because I one of the only things I've never done in music is book shows or do anything to do with setting up shows or festivals or any of that sort of stuff. And to me, that stuff seems like a nightmare undertaking. So why'd you start doing this?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Sometimes I ask myself that. I'd have to just back up and say the reason why I booked my first show. Now, this is really surprising to a lot of people. I booked my very first show in May of 2014. I had never organized a show not a musical show of any kind. I'd certainly done plenty of event planning with my job and with, I have kids, you got to throw a party, I've put on a couple weddings, that kind of stuff. But I'd never worked with bands, coordinating schedules, all that stuff, working with venues. I'd never really done that until I decided I had a milestone birthday coming up, and I'm like, yeah, nobody's going to throw me a party, so I better do it myself. Oh. And I just decided that I enjoyed going to see live music, and I enjoyed certain kind of bands, so I decided to throw myself a birthday party, and it was it was a smash success. In fact, it was so successful that people were like, "Oh, you do this now?" And prior to that, I think I had told every person I knew that promoted shows, book shows, that I would never ever do that. Just because I had heard some of the tales they told about, bands not being able to get into the country because of visas or just the egos or just, the money situation that you can run into, or dealing with venues, or dealing with just any number of things, or dealing with nobody showing up. That's always,
Oh yeah, totally.
that's always a challenge.
I know that really
Yeah.
well.
But I was like, okay, I guess I'll do this. So I just started doing little shows, and it turned out that it wasn't too terribly hard. And I made the joke that it was like, because I'm a mom and I have kids, it was sort of like throwing a birthday party, but these kids are a lot older, and they're a lot more spoiled in a lot of ways. So there was a lot more. It was very similar to me in just organizing any other kind of event. It wasn't foreign territory. There were little, tasks and check boxes that you had to like go through to make sure things were happening correctly. So that's kind of where it came from. But then I also, so that was in 2014. Prior to that, the fall before that, I had attended Stella Natura, which was a festival in Northern California, and it was the second of two music camping festivals that I ever went to. That it just inspired me. I loved being in a beautiful natural environment, and the late night sort of jam sessions that could spring up, and having the opportunity to mingle with people in a much more relaxed atmosphere than in a venue where you can't hear, or you can't get away to like just sort of, sometimes you just want to be a little further away from the bands and just sort of take it in a global sort of way, as opposed to like, being jammed into the front. Now there is, that visceral experience of being jammed into the front of a venue at a stage, and, sweating or just feeling the music that closely. But sometimes, having that expansive space, and also just a beautiful space, like where Stella Natura was held in the Tahoe National Forest, you just can't beat that. I mean, it was great. It was awesome. And it snowed. It was crazy. So uh, I thought, yeah, that would be really cool to do something like that one day. And then after I started, booking little shows, the seed started to really take hold. And I started thinking it wouldn't be that bad. And my original vision of Shadow Woods was something a lot more smaller scale than what it has turned out to be. It was basically just a metal camp out where I found somebody who was willing to, let us come onto their property and set up some bands, and have a bonfire and call it a day. But people aren't willing to do that, and I guess I don't know a lot of members of the landed gentry who are willing to just let me set up stages on their lawn. So I had to start looking for places to rent, and once you get into that realm,
Oh yeah,
it's money. And then
overhead.
if you're going to have to pay money to rent this place, you got to make sure that you draw enough people to pay for that. So you start looking for more and more well-known bands so that you can draw a larger crowd to make it even worth it.
Yeah,
Because I could
definitely.
have done it entirely with local bands if I had found someone who was willing to, like, have us set it up in their barn.
Now this is all down in the Baltimore, Maryland area. Is that where you are you from that area originally, or did you migrate there?
No, I'm not from there originally. I mean, I was originally from California, and I moved to Prince George's County, Maryland, when I was smaller. And I did grow up in Maryland, but not in the Baltimore area, more toward DC. And went to University of Maryland, grew up in that area, and then I lived in the Midwest for a while. But Baltimore, I moved to in 2002, and I really love this area because I love the state of Maryland in general because it's got everything you need. It's got oceans and mountains and cities and rural areas, and it's just very diverse. And it's called America in miniature. In a lot of ways, it really is. But the fest is about 35 miles. Well, no, it's like 35 minutes north of the center of Baltimore. So if you're standing right in the center of Baltimore, like if you're at City Hall and you went 35 minutes north, you would be at the no, 35 miles. I'm messing this up. If you were in the center of Baltimore and you went 35 miles due north, you would be at the festival site. It takes about 40 minutes to drive there, 45 minutes to drive.
That's pretty cool. So it's not, it's definitely rural, but it's not out in some completely remote area where you need like a pack mule to get to it. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I would love it if it was more remote. I mean, Stella Natura was a little bit more remote, but you could still hear the highway from where
Yeah.
it was located. And this, you can't hear the highway. You're in agricultural land for miles around.
Cool. So you have a multi-stage heavy metal festival out in the woods in a camping site. And as far as like power, do you have to get generators or anything like that?
Yeah, we have to get 2 generators. One of the stages. So let me tell you about the venue. The venue itself is a Boys and Girls Club camp. So it's not a campground, but it's set up for people to come and stay there and for a week or so. And so there's electricity, running water. There's a professional kitchen. It's a nice place. They have one stage there that they built themselves that has enough power to run the type of gear that we use. And they use that for theater camp or whatever. But the other 2 stages, one is in the hall, and the other one is in the field. We've got generators for. Last year, we used the electricity that was in the building, and we almost browned out a few times. And there were some people cooking in the kitchen, and the oven kept cutting out. So we decided we weren't going to pull from the building anymore. We're just going to have a nice power grid from a generator outside. And then the field stage obviously needs its own power supply, which is the stage you will play.
Oh, cool. Right on. So that's we don't have to worry about browning anyone out or anything like that. So that's pretty cool.
No.
Right on.
And the other thing too I want to emphasize is that there are a lot of little music festivals where, or I wouldn't even call them festivals, just like musical campouts where somebody's got a deck, or they've got they build a stage with pallet and hay bales and pallets, or they drive in a flatbed trailer or something, and they set up the stage on that. This is not that. This is an actual. You'll see when you get there. This is a legit setup. I mean, everything is professional, top notch, the best we could afford, and people are shocked. Last year when Midnight played, those guys got there. They played on Saturday, so they were the closing band on Saturday. And when they got there, their mouths dropped open because they were expecting it to be like a hay bale fest. And they had a legit stage that was 3 feet or 4 feet, I guess, up off the ground, and a big canopy over it, and real sound gear, and a nice backline. So they had something that they weren't expecting to play, and they played for 70 minutes last year, which is unprecedented. They usually play for about 30 minutes.
Huh. Aside from music, you got some other stuff going on there. I saw, I looked at the schedule, and there's like a pretty full day's worth of events and all this other non-music related stuff. So what other stuff you got going on there?
Well, so we have workshops, and that's a funny thing because we get we get some jokes made about us for having things like yoga. But all these things were not ideas that we generated ourselves. They were ideas generated by attendees. They said, couldn't we have this, or would it be okay if we did a workshop on this other activity? So we've got a number of workshops. For example, we have 90 minutes of yoga every morning from like 10 o'clock to 11:30, and you can just drop in and do it. Last year, we had 40 people out there every morning. I don't know how they managed it. Most of them were hungover, but 40 people out there on a basketball court, frickin' doing the downward dog. So I'm like, more power to you, because I'm not doing that. But like our security team went out there too, and stretched every morning with the yoga people. So that was extremely popular. We did we have a woman who is a Scandinavian expert, and she came out and taught a workshop on runes and what they are and what they mean. That was also largely. It was very well attended. Probably about another 40 people attended that. This year, those were the only 2 workshops we had last year, but this year we've got a lot more. We got someone who wants to do something on aromatherapy. We have a coloring session. I just added one on guitar maintenance. We've got someone who's a luthier who is going to be attending the fest, and he decided he wanted to do a little basic guitar maintenance workshop. So we've got a lot of other things going on. And these are all ones that were suggested by attendees. They're not ones we, dictated to the crowd. It's a very grassroots DIY kind of event.
I think that's really interesting. So like in the earlier part of the day, if you're camping out for it's 3 days, right? The entire thing.
Yeah, it starts Thursday night, then bands all day. So bands Thursday night, bands all day Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday is just sort of like the unload and recovery day.
Cool. So you can have stuff to do before the rock and roll starts, and
or even during it. I mean, some of the workshops take place during the music. The music starts at noon.
Yeah, I'd be interested in checking out some of the rune workshops and things like that. That'd be really fun. That's a pretty awesome idea, man. And I really hope that this thing goes on for many years, man, because it's like a very I kind of like the direction of it. It's not just like playing like some outdoor festival where it's like all business, and it's like sponsored by like whatever, Monster Energy drink or something like that. It's cool.
And I think that's what I think created such an atmosphere of. I don't want to make it sound all lovey-dovey, but it really kind of was. I mean, last year people were just walking around with ridiculous grins on their faces, and it wasn't just because they were like tripping. They were really, really happy, and they were just, I don't know. I mean, the camp itself, the physical location is just it's just very relaxing. All the neighbors come. There are people who live around there, and we give them free tickets. And so there's a bunch of, middle-aged guys in polo shirts with their little pudgy wives, and they're like traipsing around, checking out the bands, and they're like getting into it. They love it.
Cool.
So that was a surprise. I don't know. It's just crazy. I mean, it's just kind of evolved into its own thing. And I mean, I just wanted to create a festival that I myself wanted to attend. I love going to Maryland Death Fest, and I've been to a lot of other festivals. Like I went to Martyrdom, and gosh, what did I? Oh, I went to that anti-cosmic one that was held up in Rhode Island recently, and they're all good. They have good qualities, but this was just sort of like, I just wanted to relax and listen to music. And, you can pull up a lawn chair. People had hammocks hung from trees and listening to bands. They were, you can bring your own food and cook. We have food vendors too, but, we allow you to cook if you use a propane stove. We have big bonfires at night with people just hanging around, drinking and just being friends, and people bringing board games and, just all kinds of pop-up things. Somebody started playing basketball after the yoga people were done. Some people grabbed a basketball and started shooting hoops, and then people were like, playing volleyball. There's a volleyball, net. So it's just fun. I mean, there's no, it's grass. You're not standing on a parking lot. So there's that aspect of it. I don't know. I think you're going to really love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. A couple weeks away, getting everything prepared as far as our set goes, and getting everything well rehearsed.
That's another thing too about like festivals that was always frustrating with me, is unless it was just in a one venue festival, like how Martyrdom was just in one venue. So you had a band, you took a break, you had a band, you took a break. At Death Fest, you've got bands that overlap each other, and you have to choose who you're going to see. But with this, we've got 3 stages, and they alternate. So there's no bands playing at the same time. You can see all of them. There's 41 bands, and you can logistically see all 41 bands.
That's pretty awesome. And they're not like miles apart like they are on Death Fest, down in MDF.
No. Mm-mm. I mean, it's a little bit of a walk to the Woodland stage, but it's not that far. And usually we've allowed so much time between sets that people have some of these bands, especially the black metal bands, have very specific ways that they like to dress the stage, and they have the luxury of the time to set it up, and they have the luxury of the time to have a nice long set. They're not rushed in, they're not rushed out. And I can anticipate there might be somebody who goes over their time a little bit, but it's all, the cushions are all built in. And the stage people, the sound engineers, love this because they can take breaks. They can
Oh
go
yeah,
lay down
totally.
in their tent if they have to. They can grab something to eat. They're not, it's not like this grueling day for them either.
That's what I always imagined about. I played a few of these festivals that there's like multi-day festivals like here in the States and in Europe, and I imagine the sound engineer having like one hell of like that dude must take like 3 weeks off after those things are over with, just from like having to deal. Even if the bands bring their own engineer, like the sound guy has to be on hand to help
Right.
out with like, oh well, this is this shows up here on the board and we use these channels for this and that. But it's got to be just like a draining experience to be a sound guy at a festival, for a multi-day festival like that. But it sounds like the guy gets breaks here and there, and that's always that. I'm sure he appreciates that.
Yeah, I mean most of the stages have between 5 and 6 bands per day. So that's it. That's all you got to worry about.
So what what are some of the bands that are playing this year? For those out there.
Obviously, there's this band called Tombs that I think is pretty good.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
And what?
I mean, that's nice. Glad you enjoy
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Uh, Ghost Bath from, not from China, but from North Dakota is playing. And I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they had people misled for a while that they were from China, which I found enormously amusing. And so those guys are on Thursday night and they are on tour with some folks from Calgary called Numenorian. So those guys are playing on Thursday night, and there's some local bands, regional bands also playing. On Friday, the night that you play, there's Acid Witch and Temple of Void, both from Michigan, and people are really excited about both of those. My husband plays in a doom metal band, Iron Man, and they did a show with Temple of Void, and they were amazing. So I was really happy to have them. And then of course, Acid Witch has ties to some of some of the other bands that people wanted me to book, but I was like, I'm not ready to book that band yet. So Acid Witch also shares members with the band Shitfuckers. So maybe that'll be something for the future to think about. Who else do we have? Wino is going to be there.
I did. I saw that. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
That he's doing, and he's really excited about it too, because he loves these kind of weird, like bizarre settings and changing things up. And he's playing with this band called Faith and Jane, who are these really young guys who do their own stuff is sort of like stoner rock kind of stuff, but they have got an edge to them that is unlike a lot of the other stoner metal or stoner rock bands that you hear out there. And he was just, I saw him at a show a couple of weeks ago, and he was just praising them about how rich their personal knowledge of music is, like the history, like jazz and blues. And like they knew these bands, like they had done their homework basically. And he respected that. So that's going to be a really interesting set. And then we have that band Tenger Cavalry. Have you encountered them yet?
That name rings a bell, but I'm not familiar with them.
So Tenger Cavalry are originally from China, and they have a couple of American members now, but they are Mongolian folk metal.
Ooh, interesting.
Like with the Tuvan throat singing, traditional instruments. That's going to be really cool.
Are they playing the same day we are? Because I'd like to see that.
I think they're playing Saturday. I can't remember when anybody's playing. People tell me, want me to keep track, but I can't remember. No, maybe they are playing the day you're playing. Maybe they're playing Friday. I don't know. I can't keep anything straight. Honestly, I've been dealing with it really is crazy because I deal with so many different details related to this. For everything from backline to organizing the food vendors, everything. It's crazy. And that's why I question myself, like, what am I doing?
That sounds really cool though. It's like very unusual. It's just unique to have a band like that on like a typical doom black, kind of metal bill, which I
Well,
don't
it's
know.
a mixed genre bill. I mean, it's not just doom metal or black metal. It's just a lot of different bands. Last year we had a straight up folk band. Like they just played traditional instruments. There was nothing metal about them at all. But people loved it. Like they like, and they stopped and told stories between each song about like what the song was about and where it originated, and people ate that up.
So, were there any lessons learned between this year and last year, like as far as like your first foray into festival booking and managing? Did you learn anything from last year that you can apply to this year's festival?
Well, what's interesting is I thought this year would be a lot easier, and it actually hasn't turned out to be easier. We've actually we're actually dealing with bigger bands this year, and I think that's proven to be a little bit more of a challenge. Um, I think lessons learned are just, that you have to really, really hit people over the head with this. And I feel like, I think that's part of the reason why it's a little frustrating for me is because I don't want to be the person that, every time my friends run into me, that I don't want to be that person that's always talking about Shadow Woods, but I am because I have to be. When you're establishing a new festival, you have to really just keep talking to people, and you think that people hear what you're saying, or you think that people are going to hear about it from their friends or whatever, and they don't. It's just really, really hard. Even in this day and age of social media, you've got to like come up with any means to get the word out about a new event like this. And one of the things that happened to us last year that really, I think, where we lost some traction in terms of attendance, and I think we lost a band because of it, was when our original site last year was in Pennsylvania, and we received opposition from a religious group up there who convinced the town supervisors to tell the property owner that we could have the event, but we couldn't serve alcohol. Like we couldn't bring in a vendor, we couldn't have BYOB, we could not have alcohol on premises. So that fell apart, and we had to actually move. So in
Oh wow!
December, wait, when was it? In late April of 2015, we had to move the we'd already had tickets on sale.
Yeah.
So we had to move our venue from Pennsylvania to this place that I had previously scouted in Maryland. And now it was amazing and fortunate and a miracle that the venue I had previously scouted was even available. But moving the fest was so frustrating because people were like, well, isn't that in Pennsylvania? And I'm like, no, it is not. And the other thing too is people form opinions just like you do with people. Your first impression is like what lasts. And so for whatever reason, people decided this was a black metal fest and all the bands were supposed to be black metal. So then there was the black metal elite mentality started coming out, and people would look at the lineup and they'd say, well, what kind of black metal fest is this? It's got these bands on it. And it was just like, well, maybe because it's not a black metal only fest,
I know, right?
so people were trying to there was that whole group, there was a whole contingent of people saying that it was, like a poser fest because it didn't have, I don't know, a bunch of war metal bands on it or something. I don't know. Revenge wasn't playing. I have no idea. But there was just that whole mentality. And then, of course, the yoga, people are like, what is that? So I don't know. I think we've actually created, though, a festival that people really wanted. We filled in a niche for people, or niche, is that the word? That was empty. We've created something that did not exist. That, like you said, there's lots of festivals out there that are like sponsored by Monster Energy drink, or underwritten by who knows who, or ones that are very specific to a specific genre. And I understand why people want to go to a festival that maybe has all, really a bunch of big name bands on it, like the big name bands that you have to go to see separately. Oh, they're all on one festival. Well, I'll just, pay $300 and go to that. But this is not that fest. This festival is for people to discover new music, and the bands on it, a lot of these people don't know about. They would never make it on those festivals.
That's like a really cool concept. So if you were out there and you live close, say the tri-state area, and you wanted to buy a ticket for this festival, do they go to your website or, paperbag.com, or how do people buy tickets for this thing?
Yeah, you can go to the website, the shadowwoodsmetalfest.com website. There's a link there. There's a link on the Facebook page. Brown Paper Tickets has a link there. I think it's, I think if you just do a Google search, you're going to find it. It comes up. We have a lot of hits. We've had Decibel has talked about us a couple times, bless their hearts. And we've got some good coverage from, some other sources. And we'll have people out there. There are going to be some music journalists out there watching to see what happens. So I hope people turn out, because what can I say? It's my little baby, but, I can do something else. Like, I could be using all this money to renovate my kitchen.
Yeah, you could. But does it really need to be renovated at this point? That's the question.
I could go, well, it does actually, but I could go, I could pay my daughter's college tuition, or I could go on a cruise. But I choose to do this because this is my passion. And I feel like sharing that passion with people is fulfilling for me. Last night I had to look up something on the ticketing site for somebody, because they couldn't remember if they'd bought 2 tickets or 1, and I looked at I looked it up for them, and then I started scrolling through the names of the people who are coming, and I know 75% of the people coming.
That's really cool.
And then it's not even that they're all local. Some of them are we've got people who come from across the country to come to this festival, but I know them, and I've either met them at Death Fest or something else, or they were there last year. And it's becoming like this private little club, this reunion of people who all kind of are like-minded. They're willing to listen to a band they haven't heard before, and they're willing to invest their time. They're not looking at the lineup and saying, I don't know any of these bands, why would I want to go to that? They're not looking at it like that. They're like, oh, cool, I bet these are good bands. And I'm excited about that.
So let me ask you a question now, since this is some kind of sleepaway camp for boys and girls. Has there been any sort of rumors or legends about like a Jason Voorhees type of guy, like abducting campers overnight, or hacking people up with knives or anything like that?
Well, no, but Maryland does have a cryptid, and our cryptid is the Goat Man. And the legend of the Goat Man is that it was an experiment gone wrong at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, where a man was doing experiments with goat DNA, and somehow or another he became Goat Man. So there are we had Fred from Sagicacia design the poster art for the festival, and the T-shirt both feature the Maryland Goat Man.
Oh, cool. Also, isn't the Mothman sort of in that area too, or is that West Virginia?
Mothman is West Virginia.
Oh,
but
not too far
there
away.
are a lot of weird, cryptid legends all around there. I mean, maybe the New Jersey Devil will be visiting us next year.
Actually, West Virginia is not too far away for the Mothman to show up. So yeah, we might have 3 cryptozoological happenings, and then maybe an alien abduction or 2 would be cool.
Yeah, we can only hope.
So, what's up with your podcast?
I'm just too tired. I'm just too tired. And plus, I had a partner that I podcasted with, and he and I have just never been. I mean, we both have crazy jobs, and he has like a 2-hour commute, so we just never have time to do it anymore. Plus, I stopped drinking beer. I still drink liquor, but I stopped drinking beer. So that kind of, if I drank too much liquor, I would be under the table. So part of that podcast was drinking,
Oh,
and
really?
I've tried to cut back on that. So it's kind of fallen by the wayside. But I do have other outlets for my creative writing.
Yeah, you done some writing for Heathen Harvest too, which you know, is that also something still active with you?
It is. I mean, like I've been really busy with the festival and haven't turned anything in for a while. I think the last thing I had ran in early August or late July. I can't remember, but yeah, I've done a few things for them since last fall, and I enjoy that online publication quite a bit because I think they're one of the few online organizations, musical exploration that covers everything. They cover things that maybe people might find objectionable, and they cover things that are not mainstream, but that are more accessible. And they do it in a very fair way. And I think they've gotten some criticism for that, but I respect them a lot for just being able to approach every kind of music without any sort of real bias, and they approach it as art, not as politics.
What kind of objectionable stuff do they cover there?
I mean, they've covered some NSBM bands and just bands that maybe people would find offensive. Like, why would you be writing about this group? But I think all's fair. I don't believe in any kind of censorship, but I know that some people would like to shut down people who have differing opinions than they do, and I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, it's kind of like a slippery slope with a lot of people. I think, it's I can understand in Europe if you were in Germany or something like having a different idea about that kind of stuff because I know like when I'm in Europe, I mean we never obviously never have any issues about being Nazis or anything like that, but Germans love talking about like fascism and all that kind of stuff, and they wallow in this sort of guilt over there, and so I can understand them being opposed to NSBM or even bands like Death in June or something where people associate that particular, like Douglas Pierce with like Nazism and like fascist sort of
Right.
stuff. But I think that you should have like a free forum to express yourself. It's like, and also honestly, there are definitely, none of these bands or artists are organizing anyone to like overthrow the government or anything or, detonate dirty bombs anywhere. So it's like,
Yeah.
they're just it's just art basically, and I think that people should be able to express themselves however they want, and people could either read it or not read it, or take listen to that music or not listen to it, and you should be able to express your opinion about that too. But I don't think outlets should be censored or have some sort of PC warrior out there to say, oh, you can't check this website anymore because they, interviewed Rob Darkin or something like that from Graveland, and it's just, this stuff's like, it's almost like the PC militia has become so liberal that they become like right wing people in a way by suppressing creativity and self expression.
Yeah, it's fundamentalism in another way. And I mean, I know there are people who are friends of mine who would not agree with me, and they would say, "No, you have to crush people who are like that." But my opinion has been that, I'm a journalist. I was trained as a journalist, and so freedom of speech is a core value for me. And I think, if you want to just look at journalism as an example, modern journalism is garbage. We don't have modern journalism anymore. We have very few real journalists. And so that's why I think I appreciate Heathen Harvest, is because they can look at something journalistically and say, okay, we can look at this piece of work and say, well, I don't agree with the philosophies behind this work, or I don't agree with the philosophies of the person who created it. I can evaluate it from an artistic standpoint and call it a day. And I think that's the fairest thing that you can ever do. You don't, and like you said, you don't have to. You can vote with your dollars. For example, you don't have to go to shows or buy records or buy products from organizations or companies or whatever that you just don't support ideologically. But you don't have to like try to shut other people down unless they're breaking some sort of law, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's next thing that's a fundamentalist idea. I mean, the whole like over at Charlie Hebdo when those journalists were killed because of their expressing themselves in this sort of you know commentary about Islam. I mean, next thing you know, that's what's going to be happening unless we're really vigilant about what we allow people to say and don't allow people to say.
Right.
So, well, right on, man. So,
and in the same token, I just want to say the same token that the festival doesn't have any kind of political leaning or ideology or platform. I mean, it is put together by a group of people. Myself, I'm the sort of the figurehead of it, but there are people who put this together that have all kinds of ideologies and thoughts. But we set them all aside because we're here to explore undiscovered music that should be showcased. And that's what we're doing this for. We're not doing it because we're trying to promote any kind of agenda.
that sounds like a cool idea. So, hey, man, have you been watching or have you watched Stranger Things? What do you think of that show?
Yeah, I have. I've watched like 3 episodes of it, and I started to feel like it was a cross between a Twin Peaks wannabe kind of show and something like Outer Limits, which is, I don't know if anybody remembers that show because I'm like way older than anyone else, but it just seems like, I don't know, I couldn't get into it, but I know a lot of people really are.
Yeah, I loved it, man. I thought it was cool. I enjoy a lot of that sort of stuff. I thought it was pretty cool, especially having grown up like in the late '70s and the '80s. Like that was like the time I was about the same age as those kids. And it was really cool to
Yeah.
see it.
I really got into the Fargo TV series
Oh yeah,
because it's also Coen Brothers.
yeah, totally. That's the two seasons I saw I thought were amazing, and like there's only 2 seasons, right? They haven't done a third one yet.
Yeah, I've only seen the first season, not the second
Oh
one yet.
man, yeah, the first one's killer. The second one's really good too. But I remember people were trying to sell me on that, and then I checked out the first episode, and it didn't hook me right away. And I remember I bought it on iTunes, and it kind of sat there for a while, unwatched, and then they're like, "Oh no, you got to check out episode 2 and 3, and it'll hook you in." And it did, man. I watched, I rewatched the first episode, went to the second one, and then next thing I know, I was like running through each episode, and I don't know, what was I thinking, man? What a great story, great acting, like the actors in it.
It is. It was one of the few shows that actually made me, would startle me or make me jump or just come out of left field. And there's not a lot of TV shows. I can always see where they're going.
Yeah.
But that one, I was just like, no, that didn't just happen. Oh my God, stop.
Yeah, Billy Bob Thornton was killer in that. And that guy's usually great in every movie I've seen him in.
Oh yeah. Although I can't ever really look at him as anything but Bad Santa from this, I just can't. He's always Bad Santa, regardless of what role he plays.
Yeah, I keep thinking the first time I saw him was in Sling Blade, so
Yeah.
that's my my sort of go-to.
Yeah. Well,
image.
the thing is that Bad Santa superseded my impression of him in Sling Blade because I'm pretty sure I saw that first too.
Yeah.
Everything else now is just sort of a version of Bad Santa.
So, is there anything else you want to add to our discussion of the upcoming Shadow Woods Festival? Any tidbits of information people should know out there who haven't bought their tickets yet?
I would encourage people to buy their tickets. I mean, it is a DIY thing. This is not, underwritten by anybody but me. And Grimoire, Grimoire has contributed some money, so they have definitely helped. Grimoire Records is a hybrid recording and distribution label in Baltimore. So they record everything they distribute, and that's kind of unique for them. And so Phil Doccolo, who is a co-owner of Grimoire, has given a contribution. And then there's also individual people who have contributed. There's a woman, Jessie Sigmund, who has knitted. I don't know if you've seen pictures of this online, but she's knitted these Shadow Woods branded items, and she's selling them and donating portion of the proceeds to Shadow Woods. And she's also knitted this enormous shawl, like a cape kind of shawl that has a tree on it, and the Shadow Woods, just SWMF at the bottom. And I think we're going to try to auction that off.
Cool.
Took 520 hours, I think, of work went into that. It's a fantastic piece of work, and this is the other thing too. We didn't talk about the vendors there.
Oh yeah, what vendors we got there?
So Season of Mist will be vending Anthropic Records, Crucial Blast,
nice,
Grimoire, and I'm trying to think. Was there another record label? I don't think there's another record label. And then we've got like a variety of people who do jewelry and artists who do screen printing or illustrations. We have a tattoo artist there who will be doing special like Shadow Woods flash and other things that you might want to request. And these are all, again, very specific types of vendors. They're not, it's not like flea market crap. There was somebody who approached me about, having like bootleg CDs and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to have that. Take that out to the Montgomery mini mall or whatever.
That's some like South Jersey shit right there, man. That's like in Chemung or whatever, in the Pines. That's like Pine Barrens, like dirt market stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we don't have anything like that. We have very like high class, handmade, handcrafted jewelry, silversmithing. I mean, beautiful stuff, but all like, within a price point that you can handle. And Shadow Woods will have merch for sale. We have a hoodie this year, which we didn't have last year, which everybody asked for because it got chilly at night, and t-shirts. And then our art poster, the second in the last year, we had a beautiful art poster also designed by Fred.
Oh, cool.
From Education.
Yeah, Fred does a lot of good work.
He's done this art again, and yeah, I mean, beautiful stuff. So, we've tried to elevate it a little bit from the typical, like you said, flea bag, dirt bag, flea market.
That's South Jersey shit. Yeah, you want to stay away from that stuff.
Anything along 95, any flea market along 95 is going to give you exactly that kind of stuff.
Yeah, those guys also have like that one or two dudes that sell like Nazi shit. Like they have like the army surplus stuff, but then they're like, they have like the secret Foot Locker with like SS daggers and things like that.
Those are historical items, right?
Yeah, there's always a couple of those guys.
Historical collectibles, yeah.
So you're not going to have any of that stuff at the vendors.
No, we're not going to have anything like that. And that's like, in keeping with, I reserve the right to do business with whomever I choose. So I'm going to have vendors that I want to do business with.
And the day that Tombs plays, I'll be selling some of the brand new Savage Gold cold press coffee for people to enjoy.
So you're going to be selling like cups of it, or like, what are you doing? You're going to make it?
Yeah, that's what you do. You make it, and I'm going to put it in a Cambro and just sell it to people by the cup.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm also bringing some pounds too, some bags of beans if people want to buy that too. That's like.
Do you process cold coffee for cold brew differently than you do for hot brew?
Yeah, they're two different things. There's no heat involved in cold press, so it's basically you make a big tea bag out of there's like a filter and a strainer, and you grind up like 5 pounds of coffee, and you put it in this thing that looks like basically a big tea bag, and you just let it sit for 24 hours in the water, and then you have cold pressed coffee. That's how they cold press everything. You tea cold presses that way.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no. I meant for the beans themselves, or the beans are using different kinds of beans, or
no, the beans
use whatever coffee.
Well, no, I don't use whatever coffee. I use the beans that are typically the beans are the beans that I sell as Blue Monday, which is they're Peruvian, and they're dark roasted, usually dark roast. Or I mean, I'm not saying usually, but like I think it's better when you use dark roast coffee to make cold press, just because it has like a stronger like flavor to it. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Just what the beans that I use is the Blue Monday beans. That's what I cold press, and that's going to be the Savage Gold cold press. So Yeah, people can
Well, I
stop
can't
by.
wait for that because I don't usually during festivals or shows that I'm running, I don't drink a lot of alcohol because I got to pay people money.
Yeah,
So I got to keep my wits about me. But I will be drinking lots of coffee and being awake.
yeah.
It's
Well,
going to be
well.
coffee or Red Bull. I'm not sure which,
Oh, you
but
want to go with
definitely
coffee,
coffee.
man. You don't want to take Red Bulls like fill with all these chemicals and like weird stuff.
I don't know. I might need some taurine. I might need to up my intake of taurine.
Yeah, I stay away from all that stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's cool to like just get up on coffee for me personally. But I'll have
Are you
that.
gonna are you gonna have butter to mix into it though? Are you gonna do
No, you
the
can't do that with cold press because you basically just have a lump of butter in like coffee that's at room temperature, so you can't really do
well?
it.
Couldn't you just blend it up?
It doesn't stay blended, man. You're a scientist, man. You should know about fat
Oh, I
emulsification.
guess that's true.
Yeah, you have to either emulsify the fat so it goes in the solution, or you have to heat it. So you can. There's actually there's a brand out there that I swear by called On It, and they have an emulsified MCT oil that I use in. You can put it in either cold coffee or hot coffee. You can put it in water. You can put it in tea, and it goes into solution easier. But if you just took butter, it wouldn't really stay in solution if it was cold.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even if you took hot coffee, you put the butter in it, threw it in a blender. As it cooled, that butter would form these little fat globules, which aren't very appetizing. So
Well, I look forward to that.
yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna bring like a container, some cups, sweeteners, all that kind of stuff. So
What how many days are you just staying Friday to Saturday? You gonna stay through Saturday or what are you doing?
no, I believe that we're going back Saturday morning, so we'll just be there during the day on Friday and during our set, and probably a little bit in the morning, and then we're gonna roll.
Friday goes late. Friday goes late into the evening because after you play, we have bands inside that go late.
Yeah.
And then we have movies.
Oh, cool. What kind of movies are you playing?
I don't have any control over that. One of the guy who runs Crucial Blast, Adam Wright, he's going to be bringing movies, and he's got a weird collection. He ran it last year, and it was so fun.
Nice. Like what? What did he play last year? Do you remember?
What is the name of that movie? It was like, I can't remember the names of any of these movies, but one was like a rock band that were controlled by the devil.
Oh, Black Rose? Black Roses?
Yes.
It's funny how I knew that right off the top of my head.
Yeah, that one. I knew it was like a simple name, and I can't remember what the other one. Oh no, the other one had John Travolta in it, and what was that one called? That one had a really odd name too, and it had Jennifer Garner.
John Travolta and Jennifer Garner.
I think, yeah, and it was not a music themed one, I don't think.
Does like anyone get murdered in it, or is there like satanic overtones? Or
It was
anything?
definitely satanic. It was definitely satanic, but the Black Rose one was really appropriate because of our situation with the folks in Pennsylvania.
The Christian, right?
That was pretty good, yeah.
Hey man, next year if you do this again, you should have me curate the movie night. I would love to do something like that.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm always see that's the thing is like try this with any other festival.
Yeah.
I mean it's we just do what we want.
No, that's great, man. I love stuff like that. And maybe next year I can actually be a vendor. That'd be kind of cool because like I'm doing some vending in a couple other spots this fall. So yeah, it'd be nice.
Well, we'll have to talk about it. You have to find me an investor.
You know,
Either that or sell a lot more tickets or find me a bigger venue where I can have more people. I don't know what to do.
hey, how am I suddenly now I'm involved in this like this? All I just want to do is play some movies and sell some coffee, man. That's it.
Well, that's involvement.
Oh, I know. Yeah, man. I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't have money, but I know, we'll see. Maybe you should hit up some of these labels.
Yeah, I mean, so having Grimoire involved like they are, I mean, that involves them in the sense that they get to put whatever bands they want. Like that was their deal. It's like we can give you, we want these bands on the fest, so they're going to play. And I like the band, so it's not like I'm being forced to play bands I don't
Sure,
want to
yeah,
hear.
yeah, definitely.
But I think it's just when you have any kind of like, and that's almost like corporate level. Like that's why I've kind of gone with like individual sponsors, because, or not sponsors, but individual donors. There's on the ticket site, there's even like a little tab where you can select, you can buy your ticket, and then you can also just give us an extra $20 or however much you want.
Yeah, like a
And
donation
you
thing.
can just make a donation, and people have done it. And I'm always appalled and stunned that people actually give me more money than, if that was even crazy last year. People said, you should charge more for this. I'm like, what?
Well, how much are the tickets, first of all?
So the tickets are 130 for the weekend, and that includes camping. For $20, you can add a cabin bed, because there are 4 cabins, and they're bunk houses though. They're not private cabins. So you go the girls' cabin, the boys' cabin, the co-ed cabin, and then there's one cabin that's reserved just for band members to crash in, or wherever they want to be. But we've got plenty of room, so there's like 20 beds in each, so there's lots of room there. The cabins are highly underutilized because most people want to be in tents.
Yeah.
um then there's also, like, what else can you do? Those are the 2 ticket levels, and you can buy individual tickets too. You can buy just Thursday's like $35, and then individual tickets to Friday and Saturday are like $65. But you get a ton of bands. You get like 18
I
bands on
I
one day.
I think you're charging way too little money. Honestly.
That's what people tell me.
I mean, honestly, um, like if you were gonna go see like Danzig play somewhere for one night, you'd be paying like $60. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this big festival night thing. It's like all these bands and all this other additional stuff. I mean, that's like, I think to do the whole pass, at least $200, man. I mean, honestly, I think that that's reasonable to ask people to come down with camping, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, I think you're asking a little too. You're not covering your bases with that ticket price, honestly. And I mean, I don't want to rain anybody's parade, but you are getting quite a bit, man. I think that it's reasonable to ask for a little bit more than that. And the other thing too is, at all these sort of crowdfunding sites out there, that might be something you might want to check into for next year. You might want to offer like there's like GoFundMe, which is like straight up donations, and then there's like Fund Anything, which is like you can set up different, for example, if you donate, some X amount of dollars or whatever, and you get like a free limited poster, something. You offer
Yeah.
things to people. If you donate $1,000, you get to go for free, or something. I don't know, like something like that, and I mean, I don't know. And
I mean, I've thought about the whole crowdfunding thing before, and I feel like selling the tickets really is crowdfunding. Um, People buying T-shirts is crowdfunding. So if you think about it, um, I mean, if I made different levels that say, oh, if you pay this much, you get admission. If you pay that much, you get a poster with your admission. If you pay a little bit more, you get a hoodie with your admission and a poster and all that. And if I did it like that, to me, it doesn't seem like that's any different really than selling tickets and posters and individual things. I just don't, I don't know. The whole crowdfunding thing doesn't set well with me if it's not for like a medical or dire emergency. I'm very reluctant to go down that path.
well, I mean,
Um,
there's people out there that might not even go to the festival that might donate money, and it's like,
oh, and yeah, there are people who have just given me money
yeah, I
who
mean,
aren't coming to the fest, or
yeah,
people who bought tickets and they have no intention of coming.
oh,
So
yeah,
there's
well,
all that. And also like our coordinating team, like we have like 17 people on our planning team. Some of those people just bought tickets. I mean, in any other setting, those people would expect to go for free. These people bought their own tickets. I have band members who bought their own tickets. So
huh.
it's an unusual situation.
Yeah, well, that's a suggestion, and I know that a lot of people do stuff like that, and
Yeah, I mean, I
movies.
know. I mean, and to me, it's almost like that's like a pre-sale. If you're doing that, if you're in a crowdfund your new album, it's essentially you're doing a pre-sale.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be against that idea, but then I was thinking like, these days, is it better to do that or to make 12 cents on a dollar on a record expense that's completely not recoupable to a label, yet they can, I mean, there's a lot of different ways of looking at that stuff for
Yeah.
crowdsourcing stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to be, well, why the hell would you need that if you can be on a label or whatever? But it's like getting deeper into the business aspects of being in a band. It's like, oh wow, we sold this many records and we're still not recouped. If you were able to raise if you and your fans were able to raise all the money you needed to make an album, and everyone got their thing that they needed, and then you put your record out and like you're seeing cash from that, that's great. I mean, that's like you can go on the road, you can pay your rent when you go out on tour. It
Yeah.
makes things doable. And especially if you're in the kind of situation where you are going out there and bringing it to the people. I mean, that has to be funded somehow. And with people not buying records and downloading and stealing music and stuff like that, the record set, if you want to get a record for free, then I don't have any problem asking somebody to donate like $10 to make a record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
No, and I agree with that. I mean, in that situation, I don't have any problem with people, kind of going offline, going off label, and doing that sort of thing.
Especially with what about Spotify? What about all these Apple Music? It's like, where do you think the major labels went to? Where do you think that now that people aren't buying records, where these huge labels, where they disappear to? They are funding. That's all that stuff is major labels. That's another way of exploiting people and not paying them the right amount of money and all that sort of stuff. I mean, no one sees any real money off of that stuff. And, fans out there can think that, oh, well, this is, I don't have to buy anything anymore. I can just pay like $9 and be on Spotify, and somehow everything, works out in the end. It doesn't really work out in the end. So.
Well, it's just one of those things I haven't decided whether it's a good idea or not.
Yeah.
I mean, we do pre-sales. We do an early bird sale, and we get a lot of working capital at the beginning of the cycle of ticket sales to work with. And then the rest of it just sort of comes in, over the course of the months leading up to the fest. So I don't know. I think we'll be okay. We're doing much better this year than we did last year, for sure.
Well, that's good. Has anyone approached you about sponsoring it at all? Like, I'm not saying like, Monster Energy drink or anything like that, but some like, some local businesses or whatever, to put up advertising.
No, I mean, other than Grimoire, no. Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah, that might be something to check into.
I think that's what it is, though, is that, it's just a matter of me being new to this sort of thing. And, all the shows I've done are basically just ones, I did because I enjoyed the bands. And, I mean, I've had some bigger international bands that I've hosted for shows, but there again, I mean, that was all just me promoting it. It wasn't like someone was co-promoting it or, helping foot the bill for the guarantees these bands were asking for. I did it all myself. So this sort of thing is not, I always felt like, if you had the right combination of bands and you sold X number of tickets at this price, you should be able to cover your ground. But you also have to getting people to accept a new festival, or especially a metal festival. I mean, we just recently in Baltimore area had another camping music fest, and it wasn't a metal festival. It was more like EDM, indie pop type stuff.
Right.
And they had a couple of, major headliners, but the rest of the bands playing were mostly local regional bands. And I think they charged about the same amount, and they used a camp that's similar to what we used. And I have no idea if they broke even or not. I mean, I know a lot of people went, but that was because a lot of people don't like metal, and that's just, it's a very exclusive, small group of people who enjoy what we enjoy.
Yeah. I think that pretty much anything that's new is going to operate at a loss for a few years. And that's kind of how this business goes. And that's why people need investors, that's why. So anyone out there who has money to throw away or money to invest, shall I say, I want to rephrase that, money to invest. that might be something to check into, just because, I mean, even the biggest successful things started off in those first few years where, you got to get people to know what it's all about. You have to give people the confidence that it's not something that's a one and done deal where, oh, we're going to do one of these. It's like, it takes a while for things to catch on with people, and it's especially something that's new. You have to do it for a little while, and that's kind of like why people get backers or investors, or they might sell some advertising to somebody. It's just kind of how these things work. But either way, it's cool. I mean, I think it's going to be a fun time, and we're all looking forward.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see you, and I can't wait to see you play. And it's just going to be, magical like it was last year.
Yeah, we're playing some new songs. It'll be fun.
Just hope it doesn't rain.
Oh shit! What happens if it rains?
If it rains, we'll probably move some bands inside and move things around. We'll probably end up having to overlap if that happens, but we've got the indoor space to do it.
Cool. Oh, that's great. Well, let's hope it doesn't rain.
It's supposed to be beautiful.
Well, that's good.
I checked the Farmer's Almanac.
That's a good thing to consult if you're playing an outdoor music festival in the fall. Well, is it technically going to be fall on the 16th? I think that is like around the first.
It's the fall equinox, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See?
And I do it, like if the full moon, I think is the 15th, so it's going to be bright.
Nice. That's really cool.
Last year when Falls of Roros was playing, it was a little cloudy, but the moon was full, and it was the stage we had last year had a big sort of peaked tent that went over it, and the peak of the tent pointed directly at the moon, and there were just people who were just freaking out. I mean, they were crying. It was crazy. It was something that I'm usually like a huggy kind of person. Like, I don't mind getting hugs from people, but I was hugged so many times by people last year that I kind of like reached my limit. And by Saturday night, I was just like, no, do not touch me. Because everybody was drunk and everyone smelled bad. And
yeah.
Like, no.
All right. Well, I guess I'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks. And once again, you want to give those website addresses and all that sort of stuff for people to get tickets?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do is for people just to go to www.shadowwoodsmetalfest, and it's like Shadow and then Woods, 2 words, and then metalfest.com, because that'll lead you to everything